Hello friends, my name is Vikas Agrawal and I am the founder of AIF and PMS Experts India. So as you know that we've been conducting these knowledge based sessions with most of the fund managers in India, and the idea is clearly to educate all of you, to empower all of you so that you can take the right decision when it comes to investing in alternate investments and portfolio management services. So as the name of company clearly indicates, AIF and PMS Experts India. Well, I'm glad to share that with you that if you look at the industry, AIF and PMS industry, in fact we were discussing few minutes back that is growing very fast. I mean, look at the AIF, one segment, AIF, one instrument separately, the total asset under management has reached to almost 6 lakh crores. I'm looking at category 1, 2 and 3 all put together. Then you have PMS, which is closer to 2 lakh crores. So what we are witnessing is there's a huge value migration from mutual fund investors to portfolio management services and alternate investment funds. So we thought, because we invite industry experts every time and we try and read their mind, we thought we'll invite somebody very, very special. And today here we have Mr. Anand Shah. Anand brings about more than 2 decades of rich experience in the area of investments. He has worked with large organizations, earlier with ICICI, then with BNP Paribas, and again back in ICICI Mutual Fund. He was given the best CIO award in a particular year, and he's from IIM Bangalore. IIM Lucknow, I'm sorry. So first of all, Anandji, thank you so much for accepting our request and taking the time out from your busy schedule.
No, Vikas, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me at your show.
थैंक यू. सो आनंद जी, थोड़ा सा हम बात करते हैं इस बारे में. सो IIM लखनऊ से जब आप पढ़ रहे थे तो आपने पहले से माइंड बनाया हुआ था कि आप फंड मैनेजमेंट इंडस्ट्री में जाना चाहते हैं, या जनरली जितने भी आपके एल्यूमनस IIM लखनऊ के हैं, आइदर दे आर CEOs, CIOs और दे आर रनिंग देयर ओन कंपनीज एज ए मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर. तो आपके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा था? थोड़ा वहाँ से चालू करते हैं, फिर हम टॉपिक पे आएंगे.
So it's a very interesting story. Actually मैं मेरे काफ़ी लोग जो मुझे एडवाइस मांगते हैं करियर के बारे में, मैं उनको बताता भी यही स्टोरी बताता हूँ कि एक्चुअली जब मैंने IIM लखनऊ ज्वाइन किया था, आई वॉज इंजीनियर बिफोर दैट. और इवन इंजीनियरिंग के पहले भी मैंने सोचा था मैं डॉक्टर बनूँगा, और फिर 12th के रिजल्ट्स आने के बाद क्या मन बना, मैं इंजीनियर बन गया. और इंजीनियरिंग के बाद आई वाज वर्किंग इन पूना ओनली एट किर्लोस्कर इंजन्स. और फिर सोचा कि नहीं, सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं करना. तब आईटी काफ़ी चलता था, काफ़ी इंजीनियर्स आईटी लेते थे. मुझे वो नहीं करना है, तो कुछ सेल्स मार्केटिंग में करियर बनाएंगे करके आई डिड माई एंट्रेंस एंड आई जॉइंड IIM Lucknow.
Right.
And
this was which year, sir?
This is in year 1999.
Okay.
So I joined in the first year itself, you would be surprised. मेरा कोई कॉमर्स बैकग्राउंड नहीं था, बट all the finance subjects I would score very well. I will be very interested. मुझे वो क्लास में जाना में मज़ा आता था. केस स्टडीज़ होते थे, कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग होता था. तो काफ़ी मेरे फ्रेंड्स जो हमारे क्लासमेट्स से जो काफ़ी M.Com करके भी आए थे, उनसे मैं सीखता था, और फिर मार्क्स भी उनसे ज़्यादा आते थे कभी. तो आई फाउंड माई लव फॉर नंबर्स. तो इंजीनियर्स में होता है, बट द लव फॉर फाइनेंस आई फिगर्ड आउट इन द year 1, and in the year 2 then I said, while marketing and sales was a natural journey,
skill set, yeah.
I said I will do finance also,
right.
and try my luck on the finance. And then I fell in love in my last year, last semester. We had an opportunity to do a course of independent study बोलते हैं, जिसमें आपको क्लासेस नहीं होता है, आपको थीसिस लिखना होता है. And I wrote a thesis on the investment strategies of Warren Buffett and relevance to India.
Oh, great.
और फिर वहाँ से
This was 1999. Okay. A lot of people didn't even know in India who is Warren Buffett those days.
Yeah.
थोड़ा सा बिफोर आई मूव ऑन टू नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, सो क्या कल्चर IIM लखनऊ का मैंने बहुत सुना है, इसलिए मैं जनरली IIM ABC हमेशा वो तो एक एक्सपीरियंस होता है, बट IIM लखनऊ के लिए एक अलग चार्म है. जो बच्चे आईएम की तैयारी करते हैं, क्या आपको कैसा कल्चर मिला वहाँ पे, क्या जनरली क्या देखने को मिला आपको?
सो मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंटली आई थिंक IIM लखनऊ में जनरली हमारे यहाँ थोड़े इंजीनियर्स ज़्यादा रहते थे वो टाइम में। आज भी थोड़ा डाइवर्सिफिकेशन होगा, बट
नहीं, आज भी सिचुएशन वही है,
टेंडेंसी रहता है। तो एंड ब्राइट स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ कोर्स, that goes without saying, but if you see even the professors, they are very very different in terms of the approach. I remember many of our professors were saying results बाजू में रखो, and luckily for me I had 2 years of work ex before I went,
right.
तो उससे काफ़ी फ़र्क पड़ता है। The माहौल is not about कि कैसे मार्क्स कमाए जाए, इट वॉज ऑल लर्निंग अप्रोच। आपका केस स्टडीज़ से शुरू होता है स्टडीज़, तो बहुत प्रैक्टिकल अप्रोच था। आई थिंक दैट इज़ व्हाट I loved at IIM Lucknow, and then obviously the camaraderie, the sports, lot of focus on sports. We had a huge campus, so I think that's something which was again unique to me. I'm always a sports person, so a lot of times my friends used to say पढ़ने आया खेलने आया, इतना खेलने भी मिला, काफ़ी फैसिलिटी।
Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, now coming back to your financial industry, so asset management में आपने 20 साल बिताए हैं, जैसा मैं आपको बोला था, आपने बेस्ट CIO का भी अवार्ड लेके गए। तो आप थोड़ा सा बताएं हमारे इन्वेस्टर्स को कि आपका 20 साल का एक्सपीरियंस फंड मैनेजमेंट इंडस्ट्री में कैसा रहा। और इसी पे सेकंड क्वेश्चन है कि आप थे जो हमेशा, इनफैक्ट आपके BNP डेज में मुझे याद है एसेट एलोकेशन के बारे में आप काफ़ी बात करते हैं, तो अगर ये दोनों चीज़ों के बारे में आपकी क्या लर्निंग रही और इन्वेस्टर उससे क्या सीख के इसमें वेल्थ क्रिएट कर सकता है?
इंडीड, आई थिंक 22 साल हो गया मुझे इंडस्ट्री में, एंड आई थिंक वन थिंग आई कैन टेल इन्वेस्टर्स दैट investing in equity might be risky, but not investing in equity is definitely risky. Why I'm saying that? क्योंकि it's one of the finest asset class, trust me. 22 साल से लोग मुझे पूछ रहे हैं मार्केट क्या लग रहा है, और अगर आप 22 साल देखेंगे, market would have compounded every 4.5, in the sense doubled every 4.5 years. तो wealth तो create होता ही है. So the equity as an asset class has not disappointed investors. Further, as a whole, the portfolio management and the funds management, mutual fund industry is also, to be very honest, has done a fairly decent job over the last 22 years in generating alpha. I think somewhere what SIP has done, and that should be done at a very mass scale, is to marry the investment behavior, funds कैसा करते हैं, and the investor behavior. Can investor make the most, कि वो इस म्यूचुअल फंड, इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड या इक्विटी एज ए एसेट क्लास कैटेगरी का आपको पूरा फ़ायदा मिल रहा है कि नहीं, उसके लिए आपका क्या कंट्रीब्यूशन होना चाहिए। आई थिंक वेरी अर्ली 2002-2003 में SIP वॉज अ न्यू वर्ड, बट वी न्यू दैट SIP इज़ द सस्टेनेबल प्रोडक्ट। इन्वेस्टर का डिसिप्लिन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है इन्वेस्टर का पैसा बनाने के लिए, तो SIP आपको नेचुरली वो डिसिप्लिन दिया है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई SIP इज टुडे। Most SIP investors are happy investors.
Yes.
Somebody was telling me in the morning, if for the 14 years the product has not cumulatively created wealth, in the sense the index has not come back to where it was 14 years back.
Right.
But if you had done a SIP in that product, you made 17 to 18%.
Agreed.
So I think that's the power of SIP. I think if पूरे 22 साल का एक निचोड़ है, तो I think it takes two to win. I think it is both the investor and the investment both have to work together to create wealth. Then it's not difficult.
Well said. In fact, I remember somebody made a statement also that there is a huge difference between instruments return and investors return. Because investor वहाँ तक आपने जैसा बोला कि वो behavior manage नहीं कर पाते हैं, और वो कहीं ना कहीं बीच में डिविएट हो जाते हैं, बट इंस्ट्रूमेंट चलता रहता है, उसके ने भी अप्रिशिएट होती रहती है। सो वेल सेड। सो अभी सेकंड क्वेश्चन अभी आ जाता है कि बहुत सारे निवेशक हैं जो बाज़ार में, वो म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट किया उन्होंने, आप भी 20-22 साल से कर रहे हैं, इन्वेस्टर्स भी 22 साल से SIP कर रहे हैं, अब उनका कॉन्फिडेंस बन गया है म्यूचुअल फंड तो सही है। अब मैं जो विटनेस कर रहा हूँ, व्हाट माय टीम इज विटनेसिंग इज ह्यूज वैल्यू माइग्रेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ पीपल मूविंग फ्रॉम म्यूचुअल फंड एंड एडिंग अप इन PMS एंड AIF ऑल्सो। तो आप हमसे बात कर, कैन यू टॉक टू अस एंड टेल अस व्हाट इज़ द रीज़न, एंड थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में आप कैन यू थ्रो सम मोर लाइट्स की ये इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स जो हैं ये इन्वेस्टर को कैसे देखना चाहिए और कैसे अपने वेल्थ को एनहांस करना चाहिए थ्रू दिस इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, न्यू इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स?
आई थिंक as much my reading is while the PMS and AIF industry is growing, I think the mutual fund industry is also growing, and to that extent, as we were discussing and you said that it's both mutual fund and PMS,
right?
But I think more and more PMS and AIF industry is becoming more relevant for HI.
Right.
I'll tell you why. And in my experience, over years, as the size of the mutual fund industry has grown, also the regulations have grown, and to that extent, the ability to take risk or the ability to take active risk on the mutual fund portfolio have reduced over time.
I see.
And to that extent, there are set of investors who would look for portfolios for stocks which are fairly different from index or can be very differently weighted. They might be part of index, but the weightages of those stocks in the portfolio can be very different. What I meant is, if somebody wants a higher active risk, I think PMS and AIF has been the journey for those investors. So I think it is, investors already have experience, as you rightly said, equity. They have understood the risk of equity, but also the potential returns for equity. I think I go one step ahead saying, if you can create a portfolio of a higher conviction ideas, there is a potential of higher returns with obviously a higher risk.
Right.
I think people are wanting that product also, and that's how they are getting attracted to the PMS.
I think the other thing is also, I think to my mind, there are a lot of investors who are maybe a retail investor, small investor, like our brothers and sisters, like auto rickshaw walas and all that, and their hard-earned money is invested in mutual fund, 5,000, 10,000 rupees, there's very small amount. So even if the fund manager wants, he cannot afford to take too much of risk and go beyond the benchmark and pick up some new ideas and put into. Is that true?
No, I think that's a mandate also. You have to understand that mutual fund is playing a particular role in the overall, and we are playing a very different role. So PMS AIF is a different role to play. Mutual fund is doing what it is doing and is right for its set of investors.
Right.
It is for the investor who wants product which is fairly different from mutual fund, for whom a boutique products are getting created in the PMS AIF.
Right.
So there is a lot of customization. There is a lot of it's not only about sector weightages. It can be stock calls. It can be sector calls also. It can be mid cap, small cap. So we have products like PIPE which only invests into small cap, which goes on to become mid cap. So I think what the beauty of PMS AIF part of the industry is the ability to customize for the client, whereas mutual funds will remain the mass market.
Sure. Okay, so let me come to, before we talk about the outlook of equity markets, we will seek your views. But then before that, I just want to understand, you talked about your product. So how is ICICI placed for AIF PMS now that you are heading the complete department out there? And if I am the investor, which fund should I choose in ICICI?
Okay, so let me first talk about the company. I think we've been investing, or rather we've been developing capabilities across the alternates business. So we already had long only PMS for now more than 20 years. We also had real estate alternates business, and we also have a long short category of the alternates products, which is under the AIF route. Then now we also have fixed income. So corporate debt opportunities is what we are offering again within the AIF route. So I think we are really investing and developing the alternates business, which includes the long only piece which we are talking about. But apart from that, there is a long short, there is a fixed income, there is a real estate and others. Within the long short, we have both the PMS as well as the AIF.
In long short, you have AIF and PMS both?
No, in long only we have PMS and AIF both. In the long short, we have only AIF. So within those PMS and AIF, we have various products, but I think the more relevant products which are generally there is flexi cap and mid cap. I think these are the two categories where we believe the most potential for alpha generation is there. And that's where most of our investors also are existing today.
Sure. Can you talk to our investor and talk about your track record, like how long you've been doing this PMS and how has been the performances so far, the one which is delivered?
Sure. So we have been in the PMS business now for more than 20 years. We have our flexi cap product, which is has a track record of more than 20 years. And
what is the name?
FlexiCap.
FlexiCap, ICICI FlexiCap PMS, right?
ICICI Prudential FlexiCap PMS. Apart from that, as I said, there is two new products which we have launched very recently. One we launched in 2018, which is the Contra PMS, and Pipe, which is again a small to mid cap product which we have launched 3 years back, is in the mid and small cap category.
So Pipe was launched in which year?
2019.
19. Okay, sure.
So these are the two products which we have launched, and they're doing fairly well.
Yeah, I see, because we consolidate the performance and I see every time it's coming under quartile 1. So I was asking you the second question, that what is working so well for you that the performance is so superior?
So I think as a philosophy, we believe there are two paths to the wealth creation. Price of a stock is a function of EPS and PE multiple.
Right.
So the delta price, which is the growth, the wealth creation, the growth in the value of a company, is achieved by the growth in the EPS or the growth in the PE multiple. Now this growth in the EPS is well understood. We have been growth investors forever, for last 2 decades. Everybody understands that India as the economy grows at 11 to 12%. The good companies will grow earnings at 13 to 14% at the aggregate level. So that is the delta EPS.
And you're able to track it also very well.
Yeah. Actually, if with all the active risk that we take, we are able to actually try and do better than that. Sure. But I think the big science or the big wealth creation, if I see over last 15 years, have been in the delta EPS, delta PE multiple, my apologies.
PE multiple.
So, are you able to identify businesses which are today trading at a lower PE multiple, but they have potential to trade at a far higher PE multiple in the times to come? And that comes from the return on equity. I think if there is a business today which is at a low ROE, but has a potential to trade at a high ROE, and that's where we keep on investing. Every stock that we invest in needs to have a sustainable competitive advantage, a right to win. Typically, अगर आपका बिजनेस अगर commoditized business है, जहाँ पे कोई भी एंटर कर सकता है, अगर आप हाई ROE बनाओगे तो कंपटीशन एंटर करेगा और ROE नीचे लेके जाएगा, which is typical commodity business.
Right.
But within commodity business or within cyclical businesses, is there a company जिसके पास एक sustainable competitive advantage होता है? आज B2C बिजनेस में क्यों हाई ROE होता है? कि ब्रांड की वजह से आपको प्रीमियम चार्ज करने को मिलता है. सो इवन इफ यू आर मेकिंग हाई ROE, द न्यू प्लेयर हु डजंट हैव अ ब्रांड, वो हाई ROE नहीं बना सकता. But similarly in manufacturing business and others also, if you have a technology, if you have a low cost access to the raw material, you can sustainably make high ROE. So we keep on looking for businesses which have a right to win, which have a sustainable competitive advantage, so that they can survive the downturn and make high ROE in the long run. Today, in last 2 to 3 years, actually last few years, but more importantly last 2 years, we are observing that entire decade before 2020 was a first decade for a manufacturing sector, because China had overcapacity of everything. So they were exporting deflation to the rest of the world, which means from safety pin to boiler, from tires to tiles, everything can come from China.
True.
So if you are manufacturing that in this country and you didn't have a right to win, you didn't have a sustainable competitive advantage, you were finished. And that is exactly what has happened. Many manufacturing industries had to close outside China.
Yeah, it was a lost out decade for manufacturing.
Yes. Fast forward today, whatever has survived in manufacturing today will benefit as China becomes uncompetitive. China's labor cost is going up, China's pollution cost is going up, China's incentives for exports are going down. and their energy costs are also going up. So the China's competitiveness in manufacturing, which was derived from all these four factors, are becoming lower and lower, while they still have the scale advantage. Even today they have 50%, 55% market share in many categories.
Right.
So they are going to be the force to reckon, but incrementally. It is the manufacturing outside China which has the right to win. And that's where we are focusing today. So last 2 years, 2.5 years, even during this last difficult 1 year, when there has been a lockdown in China or there has been a slowdown in Europe, the manufacturing sector has been fairly resilient. So both our Contra and pipe portfolio has more overweight positions in the manufacturing and related sectors, and we are a little bit underweight on the B2C businesses, because in the same breath, let me also tell you that the B2C business were one of the biggest beneficiaries of China exporting deflation. जब चाइना सब चीज़ सस्ती बेचता था तो the consumer facing businesses got raw material cheap, उनके मार्जिन एक्सपांड हो गए between 500 to 1200 basis points in last decade. आज जब चाइना will export inflation, means your raw material cost will go up. Whether you will be able to pass on full or half is to be seen. So depending on your brand, you will be able to pass on some, you might not be able to pass on some margin hit you have to take. And to that extent, we believe next few years, what we have seen in the past, the profit growth rate in consumer facing businesses might not be repeated. So this is how we have been underweight that segment, which is, to be very honest, also extremely expensive for the future that we are seeing for that sector. At the same time, our overweight positions in manufacturing and manufacturing allied, including financials which had lent to that manufacturing sector and suffered a few years back, will also benefit most as there will be more recoveries from it.
Right.
So that has been helping the portfolio performance.
Sure. Great. Amazing. Good to know that. So, Anandji, now before we conclude, last question from my side. So, 2023 people are expecting the next year. We are in December now. Recession is going to come, hit Indian economy as well. This decoupling is talked about more frequently. Everybody is very bullish on India. Any fund manager that I meet, everybody is. What is your view particularly for 2023, and what is your view of the long term, these two things?
Indeed. I think first and foremost, there are known risks and there are unknown risks. And to be very honest, the known risks don't have the lasting impact on markets. The known risks can have a lasting impact on economy, but today हम जब आप US recession की बात कर रहे हैं
जी,
एक साल से बात कर रहे हैं, so you have US central banks, US government, you have Indian central bank, Indian government, you have Indian corporate honchos, you, me, investors, everybody is de-risking away from the US recession. कि अगर US recession हुआ तो how should I save myself?
True.
So when there is so much of de-risking that happens, the impact of US recession on the equity market will not be that high.
Market would discount.
Generally, yeah, exactly. The market suffers the most from the unknown risks, the way we saw global financial crisis or
Brexit happening or COVID recent,
something recent. So that is one fundamental point I wanted to make. Coming back to Indian economy and being bullish, I think there is caution. There is no doubt in my mind that India is a net importer of energy, and this situation which is around Russia and Ukraine and the high energy prices, high coal prices, high crude prices are not healthy for India. India has lost out a little bit this year in terms of growth because we had to pay for the subsidy. I think 2023 we already seen some correction in energy prices. If the things were to get resolved and energy price were to come down, it's a positive. US recession, can we gain market share from others? Can we benefit from China plus one? Can negate some of those impact. Also, high energy prices in Europe would have a lasting impact in terms of some of the manufacturing from Europe can shift to India. The third term which we have been using more often or hearing about it more often nowadays is friendshoring. That are we going to get more pie of the cake of the US and the Europe imports?
Right.
So to that extent, I think there are mitigating factors to the global slowdown. More importantly, I think India growth is also very, very robust so far.
Sure.
I think we have, as an economy, have taken a lot of pains in last few years, be it Demon, be it GST, be it NBFC crisis, RERA implementation, slowdown in the real estate. I think we have done many a short-term pain for long-term gains. We have invested in infra heavily, which doesn't create GDP immediately, but it creates GDP with a lag. The dedicated freight corridor is coming up. So to me, I think all the investments that governments have done, all the reforms we have done, taking toilets, getting Ayushman Bharat, I think we have improved the quality of life at the bottom of the pyramid. All that will have a lasting impact in terms of India growth story. So we don't know next year. I would not thump the table and saying next year I'm very bullish. But am I constructive on India? The bottom of this very, very beautiful story shaping up. So is there a set of 25, 30, 50, 100 odd companies which can do well despite of global challenges? Yes, that's possible. That's why 2023 will be the year for stock picking rather than really discussing macro.
Sure. No, what I'm trying to read from your mind is, what is the correlation between India and China? If US gets into recession, what kind of impact we can have as an economy? So while you talked about the other opportunities and...
I think, look, first and foremost, China is a very, very large manufacturer. And any market share it cedes is a big market share gain for the other economies, be it in Southeast Asia and India. But I think more importantly, you have to appreciate that as China becomes richer, it will be consumer and not manufacturer. Over time, you will see China should ideally, theoretically, should turn a net importer of goods rather than a net exporter.
Oh yes, they're a rich country now.
Yeah, exactly. So they will be consuming more, and obviously it will be manufactured in the rest of the world, where the per capita income is low, the labor cost is low. Because they will also invest in decarbonization, they will want to reduce pollution in their country. They would want blue skies in Beijing and Shanghai. So all those things makes me believe, again, very difficult to predict next 3 to 6 months. But when I see structurally, I think there's an opportunity for India. It's not given that we will win, but there's an opportunity for India to be a decent, not a significant, but to be a decent manufacturer for the rest of the world. And that is how the journey, any country becomes rich by manufacturing and selling goods and services to the developed world. And I think India has that opportunity today. So far, we've been doing all the right things. But again, as I said, it needs to get executed. That's why the bottom-up research, analyzing companies on a regular basis are required. So while theoretically these companies have potential to do well, but we have to continuously monitor them, continuously evaluate them. That is the job value add that we bring to the table.
Right. So Anandji, since you're heading the entire AIF and PMS vertical at ICICI Mutual Fund, one of the largest mutual fund in India, what is your reading about Gandhinagar? What's happening there? A lot of new AIFs are getting registered there. There is a separate stock exchange which is getting built up. So any study that you've done particularly in Gandhinagar?
So let me give you a little bit of a broad perspective of the GIFT City. I think that's what you're talking about. And globally, India is a very large market for many commodities. But India is not a big hub for commodity trading, and a lot of hubs are getting created, maybe it in Dubai and London and others, and the vision is to make India a global hub. And the GIFT City is an opportunity where it's like a yo-yo. It's a foreign land within the land, something like that.
So there the Indian authorities are not allowed to in the sense investigate or
no,
intervene.
Not only about that, the capital controls and the other stuff which is stopping from global investors to trade in India I think those are being eliminated. So I think that's a journey. That's what happens in, if you see the entire China growth, what bases the SEZs, No, so I was just saying that it is like what China succeeded in terms of SEZs. And that is what we also tried, where it's like a deemed foreign land where a lot of domestic regulations or a lot of domestic constraints don't stop the growth.
Right.
I think that is what the
so enabler to
support the growth and allowing the global investors to participate in the India growth story through that.
Right. So do you have any plan to get registered out there or come?
I think it's a continuous evaluation. Sure. We have not decided any on that, but we continuously evaluate.
Yeah, why am I asking is because a lot of NRIs, they don't want their dollar to be converted into Indian rupee, but they still want to participate in Indian equity markets. And through their AIF getting registered there, they have an opportunity to participate in Indian capital markets. So I see a lot of large asset management outfits like yours getting out there, trying to understand and registering themselves.
I think this is an exciting space. And to be very honest, this is the first time anything of this sort has been thought about, is being implemented, and been implemented for a while. I think it's exciting times ahead.
Right.
Definitely this would be a big step ahead for the asset management industry also, and otherwise for other trading hubs also, I think.
Right. Great. With that, we would like to conclude our session here. It was very interesting and meaningful, I would say. So much to learn from Anandji. Well, it's very difficult to get the max in 22 years of experience to get in 22 minutes, but at least we tried. So thank you so much. I'm sure our investor communities want to appreciate that, and you're doing a fantastic job, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Vikas, for having me. Thank you to all the investors who are patient here. Thank you.